You've probably been told an apple is a safe fruit for diabetes, and it still spiked your blood sugar. Here's why. It's not the apple's fault. It's what you ate it with, or more accurately, what you didn't eat it with. If you've ever eaten a piece of fruit thinking you were doing the healthy thing, and then watched your glucose meter tell a completely different story an hour later, you're not imagining it, and you're not doing something wrong with your willpower. You're just missing one small step that almost nobody explains clearly. And by the end of this video, that step is going to feel obvious. Before we go further, if you're over 55 and trying to keep your blood sugar steady without giving up the foods you actually enjoy, hit subscribe. This channel exists to give you the clear, honest explanations your doctor's 10-minute appointment never has time to walk you through. Now, let's get into it, because I know how it feels to sit through a video that takes 15 minutes to say something that could have taken 2. I'm not going to do that to you. Here's the confusion. Almost everyone managing type 2 diabetes or prediabetes runs into one source, tells you fruit is basically medicine. Another tells you it's candy in disguise. One says bananas are fine. Another says never touch them. One says grapefruit is a superfood. Another says it's dangerous. It's exhausting, and it's the kind of contradictory advice that makes people throw their hands up entirely. And that's exactly what a lot of people do. They stop trusting fruit altogether. Some of you watching this right now have gone months, maybe longer, avoiding fruit almost completely because it just feels safer than trying to figure out the right way to eat it. If that's you, I want you to know 2 things. First, that reaction makes complete sense. Nobody wants to guess with their health. Second, it's not necessary. And I think by the end of this video, you're going to feel a lot more confident standing in the produce aisle. Here's the piece almost nobody says plainly. Fruit itself is rarely the real problem. The problem, in the vast majority of cases, is eating fruit completely alone on its own, with nothing else around it, especially on an empty stomach. Let me give you a way to picture this that actually makes sense instead of throwing medical terms at you. Think of your bloodstream as a narrow hallway and sugar as a crowd of people trying to get through it to their destination. When that crowd shows up all at once, which is exactly what happens when you eat fruit by itself, especially first thing in the morning before you've eaten anything else, it jams the hallway. That traffic jam is the spike you feel. It's the lightheadedness. 20 minutes later, the sudden crash. An hour after that, the number on your meter that makes your stomach drop when you check it. But if that same crowd moves through a few people at a time, spaced out over several minutes, the hallway never jams. Everyone gets through smoothly, calmly, without a bottleneck. That's exactly what protein, healthy fat, and additional fiber do when you pair them with fruit. They act like a doorman standing at the entrance, letting people through in a steady, manageable stream instead of all in one crowd. That is the entire idea behind this video. Not avoid fruit. Not here are the only 3 fruits you're allowed to eat. Just this. Stop eating fruit alone. And most of the fear and confusion around fruit starts to fall away. Let's talk about what this actually looks like on your plate, because pair your fruit with something is useless advice if nobody shows you exactly how to do it. So let's walk through this slowly, fruit by fruit, so you can picture it clearly enough to do it tonight. Start with the apple, because it's the fruit almost everyone already has at home. On its own, especially peeled, an apple digests fairly quickly. When you peel it, you throw away most of the pectin, a soft, gel-forming fiber concentrated just beneath the skin. Pectin is one of the best natural brakes your body has against a fast sugar rush. Inside your gut, it forms a kind of gel that physically slows down how quickly sugar can be absorbed. So step 1 is simple. Keep the skin on. Step 2 is where the real change happens. Add a tablespoon of natural peanut butter, and now you've layered protein and healthy fat on top of that fiber. That combination doesn't stop sugar from entering your bloodstream. Nothing does that. And nothing should, because sugar is fuel your body needs. What it does is slow the pace down to something your body can actually keep up with, instead of being flooded all at once. Blueberries come up constantly in the comments on videos like this because people genuinely aren't sure whether they're helping or hurting. Eaten completely alone and especially blended into a smoothie, blueberries lose a lot of their built-in protection. We'll get to why blending is a problem in a moment. But half a cup of whole blueberries stirred into a bowl of plain Greek yogurt is a different story entirely. The protein in the yogurt does the same job the peanut butter did with the apple. It slows everything down and helps you feel full for longer, which matters if snacking between meals has been a struggle for you. Pears work in a very similar way to apples. Good soluble fiber, a gentle effect on blood sugar when eaten whole. Pairing a sliced pear with a small handful of walnuts or almonds adds healthy fat that slows digestion the same way. It's a simple swap, and it tastes like a treat, not a compromise. And then there's the banana, which causes more confusion than almost any other fruit. And for good reason. A banana isn't really one single food. It changes as it ripens. A firmer, slightly green banana behaves very differently in your body than a soft banana covered in brown spots. As a banana ripens, its starch gradually converts into simple sugar, which is why a very ripe banana eaten completely alone, especially early in the morning, can move through your system quickly and leave you looking for another snack an hour later. But take half a banana and pair it with a scoop of cottage cheese and the picture changes completely. The protein slows the whole process down, giving you a snack that keeps you steady instead of leaving you hunting for something else 40 minutes later. Now, here's the part I think actually explains why so many people feel like they're doing everything right and still seeing numbers they don't like. Fiber, protein, and fat all slow things down through slightly different doors, but they lead to the same result. Fiber physically slows how fast sugar can be absorbed through the wall of your gut. Think of it as adding speed bumps along that hallway we talked about earlier. Protein and fat slow down how quickly your stomach empties its contents into your small intestine in the first place. So the sugar arrives at that hallway more gradually to begin with. Put them together, fruit plus protein, fruit plus healthy fat, fruit plus extra fiber, and you're slowing the whole process down from two directions at once. I want to be honest with you here because I'd rather earn your trust than impress you for 5 minutes. This is not a magic trick, and it does not affect everyone in exactly the same way. Some people are naturally more sensitive to fruit sugar than others. Certain medications change how your body responds to carbohydrates. Age, activity level, sleep, even stress can shift your numbers on any given day. The only way to really know how a specific pairing affects you personally is to check your own readings if you're monitoring, or simply pay close attention to how you feel afterward. Steady energy versus a crash, calm versus shaky. What I'm giving you today is a strategy that helps the large majority of people manage blood sugar more predictably. It's not a guarantee, and it is absolutely not a substitute for whatever your own doctor has already told you to do. Let me also answer a few questions I know are sitting in the back of your mind right now, because I've seen versions of them come up again and again from people exactly like you. What about fruit and my medication? This matters most with grapefruit specifically. Grapefruit can interfere with how your body processes certain cholesterol and blood pressure medications. So if you take a statin or a blood pressure prescription, talk to your pharmacist before adding grapefruit to your routine. That's a 5-minute phone call that could prevent a real problem. Most other fruits don't carry that same concern, but medications and health conditions vary enormously from person to person, so if you're ever unsure about a specific fruit and a specific medication you take, your pharmacist is genuinely the fastest and most reliable person to ask. Which fruits are actually safe for me? Honestly, this is the wrong question, even though it's the one almost everyone asks. The better question is, how am I eating this fruit, and what is it paired with? A banana eaten alone at 7 a.m. and a banana eaten with peanut butter after lunch are, in a very real sense, two different foods as far as your blood sugar is concerned. I've heard so many contradictory things. How do I know what to trust? I understand that frustration completely and honestly. A lot of that contradiction exists because different sources are measuring different things, or talking about different situations without explaining the context. That's exactly why this video is built around one simple, consistent principle instead of a long list of rules to memorize. Pair your fruit, don't eat it alone, and pay attention to your own body's response over time. Now let's talk about the mistakes, because a few of these are going to surprise you, and one in particular might be something you've been doing every single day without ever realizing it was working against you. Fruit juice is the first one, and it might be the most damaging habit hiding in plain sight in a lot of kitchens. When you juice a fruit, you strip away nearly all of the fiber and leave behind a concentrated dose of sugar in liquid form. Liquid sugar moves through your system faster than solid food does, fiber or no fiber, because there's nothing left to slow it down and very little chewing or digesting required before it hits your bloodstream. A glass of orange juice can raise your blood sugar about as quickly as a can of regular soda. If you've been drinking a glass with breakfast because it feels like the healthy choice, and I understand why it would feel that way, it's fruit. After all, that single habit alone could be quietly undoing everything else you're doing right for the rest of the day. Smoothies are next, and this one catches people off guard because it feels healthy. You're blending whole fruit, skins and all sometimes, so it seems like you're keeping everything intact. But blending mechanically breaks down the fiber structure, even though the fiber is technically still in there somewhere. Broken down fiber simply doesn't slow digestion nearly as effectively as fiber that's still intact inside the fruit's original structure. Add a scoop of honey, a splash of juice, or a sweetened yogurt to make it taste better, which a lot of store-bought and even homemade smoothies do, and you've made the problem worse, not better. If you do enjoy smoothies, adding a real source of protein like plain Greek yogurt or unsweetened protein powder and going light on the fruit itself makes a meaningful difference. Dried fruit is a sneaky one too, and it surprises a lot of people. Drying fruit removes almost all of its water content, which concentrates the sugar into a much smaller volume. A small handful of raisins contains far more concentrated sugar than the same handful of fresh grapes. And because dried fruit is light and doesn't fill you up the way fresh fruit does, it's remarkably easy to eat 2 or 3 times as much without noticing. Eating fruit on a completely empty stomach, say, first thing in the morning before you've had anything else, means there's nothing already present in your digestive system to slow things down. This is exactly why the very same piece of fruit can behave differently depending on when and how you eat it. Fruit after a meal, when there's already protein and fat present, moves through your system very differently than the same fruit eaten alone at 6 a.m. And finally, relying on fruit alone as your everyday go-to snack, especially between meals when you're already hungry. A piece of fruit by itself in that moment is exactly the scenario we've been describing this entire video. Sugar entering a hallway with no doorman, no speed bumps, nothing to slow the crowd down. I want to be clear about something, because I don't want you walking away from this list feeling like you now have 5 more things to be afraid of. None of this means these foods are forbidden forever, and none of it means you did something wrong in the past by not knowing this. It simply means understanding why fruit behaves the way it does in different situations, so you can make small, informed swaps going forward instead of feeling like you're constantly breaking invisible rules nobody explained to you in the first place. Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Margaret, because her story captures how small this shift can actually be and how much bigger the emotional change was than the physical one. Margaret was 67 when she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and if I'm honest, she was scared. Not just about her health, but about what her life was going to look like from that point forward. Her first instinct, and it's an instinct a lot of people watching this share, was to cut fruit out almost entirely. She'd always loved bananas with her morning coffee, but after reading enough conflicting advice online, some sources telling her bananas were fine, others telling her to avoid them completely, she simply stopped buying them. For a few months, she white-knuckled her way through breakfast with dry toast and black coffee, missing the foods she genuinely enjoyed and feeling like diabetes had already started taking things away from her before she'd even had a chance to adjust. When she finally brought her frustration to her doctor, expecting to hear a long list of new restrictions, the advice she got was much simpler than she expected. Keep the banana, just stop eating it alone. Pair it with something, so she started having half a banana with a spoonful of natural peanut butter most mornings. On days she wanted something different, she'd have a small bowl of blueberries with plain Greek yogurt instead. Nothing else in her routine changed dramatically. She wasn't restricting fruit anymore. She was simply restructuring how she ate it. Over the following months, her fasting glucose readings became noticeably more stable. The post-meal spikes that used to leave her feeling foggy, tired, and irritable by mid-morning became gentler and shorter. At her next A1C check, her number had come down in a meaningful way, not because she'd given up fruit, but because she'd changed the company it kept on her plate. Just as importantly, breakfast stopped feeling like a minefield. It started feeling like breakfast again. I want to be careful here, because I don't want you to walk away thinking one pairing habit is some kind of rule. Margaret's results came from a combination of factors over time. Everyone's situation and body are different, and results like hers are not guaranteed for everyone. But her experience captures something worth sitting with. The fear of fruit itself was costing her more than fruit ever actually did. Once she stopped seeing fruit as the enemy and started seeing pairing as the tool, both her numbers and her relationship with food got easier, in that order. If this is helping make sense of something that's felt confusing for a while, take a quick second to like this video and drop a comment letting me know which fruit pairing you're going to try first. I genuinely read these and they shape exactly what topics I cover next. Now let's bring everything together, because I don't want you to leave this video with a lot of information and no clear plan for tonight and tomorrow morning. Here are 5 things you can start doing right away. Number 1, stop eating fruit completely alone. Every single time you reach for a piece of fruit, ask yourself what you're pairing it with. A spoonful of nut butter, a small handful of nuts, a scoop of Greek yogurt, or a bit of cottage cheese. This one habit alone does more work than almost anything else in this entire video. Number 2, choose whole fruit over juice whenever you possibly can, and whole fruit over smoothies as well. If you do enjoy a smoothie occasionally, add a real source of protein like Greek yogurt or unsweetened protein powder to slow it down and go easier on the amount of fruit itself. Number 3, pay attention to ripeness, especially with bananas. A firmer, slightly less ripe banana paired with protein is a gentler choice on your blood sugar than a very ripe, heavily spotted banana eaten completely alone. Number 4, keep the skin on fruits like apples and pears whenever you can. That's where a large share of the fiber and beneficial plant compounds are concentrated, and removing it removes much of the protection along with it. Number 5, and this one matters most, remember that your response is personal. If you're monitoring your blood sugar, use those numbers as feedback and information, not as a source of fear or guilt. And always keep following the guidance and treatment plan your own doctor or care team has given you. Nothing in this video is meant to diagnose anything or replace that relationship. Think of this as the explanation that fills in the gaps your appointments simply don't have time for. If this video helped clear up some of the confusion around fruit, do me a favor and hit like and leave a comment with any questions you still have. I read through every one, and they genuinely shape what I cover next. Fruit was never really the problem. But there's another part of the day that trips up almost everyone with diabetes or prediabetes even more than fruit does, and most people don't even realize it's happening. Breakfast. Some of the most common breakfast choices, the ones that feel perfectly normal and even healthy, are quietly working against steady blood sugar all morning long, hours before lunch even arrives. That's exactly what we're getting into in the video appearing on your screen right now. So go ahead and tap on it and I'll see you there.